Emotions can run high on Britain's most famous street. And when your enemies are also your neighbours, there's no escape.
It's interesting to see people press each other's buttons and, you know, create tension and conflict. I mean, that's drama, isn't it?
You'll regret that!
Whether they're fighting over men...
They were feisty women. There was a lot of ladying going on.
There's only one lady here and it's not her!
Fighting over women...
His memory was going, but the things that were still there and strong was the feud with Ken.
Deirdre loves me.
Or even fighting over the garden fence.
Des became my neighbour from hell.
In the next half hour, we'll revisit the feuds which shook the cobbles to their core.
It has remained one of those scenes, hasn't it, that's remembered.
As we tell the stories behind the stories, from 5 decades of the Corrie years. Conflicting personalities have always been a part of Coronation Street's history.
Coronation Street needs feuds like it needs the cobbles. It's essential to the show.
But over the years, it's been the battle axes who have ruled the roost.
Coronation Street has a great tradition of warring families, and in particular, warring matriarchs.
You needn't bother suspending me. I'm on strike.
It's 2004, and Wayne Rooney signs for Manchester United for £27 million. The Diana Memorial Fountain opens to the public in Hyde Park.
Today was all about persuading people to focus on what she gave to others.
Meanwhile, Weatherfield is preparing itself for the mother of all fights.
The heart of the feud between Eileen and Gail is the fact that they were both single mothers, both looking out for their kids.
They've had to learn how to survive and battle on their own, and they've had to learn how to protect their own families on their own. So that really strengthened that clash between those two women.
When Gail's only daughter and Eileen's youngest son became a couple, neither mother was over the moon about the situation.
So you think it's all right for my daughter to set up a love nest with Todd under your roof, do you?
And from Eileen's point of view, you know, she wanted Todd to go on to Oxford to escape this kind of life that he'd lived. And Sarah was the spanner in the works there.
If you ever think that I'm going to let you near my son, you stay away from him. You and your brat. Do you hear?
What's going on? Don't you touch my daughter.
She never really forgave Gail for that.
But it wasn't until Todd told Sarah he was gay that Gail felt her daughter had been betrayed. And the feud with Eileen truly started.
Eileen defended her family and Gail defended her family, and so therefore World War III broke out. Simple as that, really.
Go inside, Sarah. This won't take long.
It was down to producer Tony Wood to tell actors Helen Worth and Sue Cleaver just what the writers had in store.
I know you're in there.
When it came to letting Helen and Sue know that they were going to be fighting physically...
Don't answer it.
Come out or I'll tell the whole street what you are.
I kind of ducked that one and I hid for a bit.
Gail, calm down. Where is he?
When they got the scripts, they were like, ooh, they knew it was, you know, it was going to be a great episode.
By the time I showed my face again, I mean, they were great. They, I mean, they were well up for it.
I'm sorry.
Sorry? I'll make you sorry.
Leave him alone!
Come on, Mum. I just even love the fact that Helen's in a dressing gown. The fact they put Gail in a dressing gown is just... You couldn't get more perfect than that.
I think it suits you.
I had to have it sewn up the front because, of course, it was going to open up.
You were happy because it's the only chance you're going to get of the grandchild of that pervert.
And when both women pushed each other to their limits, the red mist descended.
Go home, Gail.
Ended up rolling about. Sue was so brilliant because she couldn't have a pad down to fall on.
Kid of yours has been dropping grandkids since he was 13!
I was hitting her head on the cobbles, for God's sake.
At least she's not! Oh, that means there's more to come!
We, of course, had a fight director. You have to know how to pull someone's hair and push someone down and slap someone. You hold the hair, and Sue, in fact, pushes the head back herself.
She is a dead weight round his neck, and he is better off without her!
Shut up! The two of you!
That episode was amazing. I mean, so cleverly written, and there was parts of absolute heartbreak mixed with pure comedy genius.
Oh, here's the other one. The rest of the village people.
The fight scene was a hit with the 13 million viewers and the press. But more importantly, it created an ongoing feud between Gail and Eileen.
Mum, no!
It's one of those kind of classic street feuds that could kind of run and run for generations, really.
She wants to fight dirty. So much the better. You can do a scene in The Rovers which has nothing to do with Sue or me. You have a look to each other which says, you know, I could still fight you on the cobbles.
It's 1990, and London erupts into violence as an anti-poll tax rally turns riotous.
75 members of the public were injured. 2 are still in hospital.
The Iron Lady pops into the Rovers for her favourite tipple.
I have a bit of lemon. A bit of lemon.
I'm going to charge him. Of course she can afford it.
And the nouveau riche are about to make their presence felt on Coronation Street.
Take me to paradise, don't
Oh, that's my head! That's my flaming head, you cretin! I didn't mean...
With the Barneses, we wanted to bring in modernity, and they were great fun because they immediately were in conflict with their neighbours, the Wiltons.
It's just the music. I wondered if you could turn it down a fraction.
Yeah, sure, no problem. If ever there was a pair to be put next door to Des Barnes. Something like that, you mean?
Turn it up, come on. No.
It was very schoolboy, but Des, I mean, he thrived on it. And so did Derek.
Louder.
You're the boss. Yeah. There you go. Well,
Des and Steph found us very, very trying.
Irritating. Well, we represented the worst of our age group for them.
Planning a garden layout?
Something like that, Derek, yeah.
Although the new neighbours irritated each other, it wasn't until Des landscaped his garden with a nautical theme that the tit-for-tat became a full-on feud.
It was one of my favourite props, that boat, because it was so big, it was so inappropriate.
We had a lounger, one of those things you
Swing
swing on.
things.
And we sat there, you know, trying to ignore it with our backs to this thing.
And you knew that something had to happen. That was put there for a purpose. The boat was standing there for a purpose.
3, 2, 1. Hey, you're not supposed to do that.
It started to fall towards us. It was done in 2 sections. They tried it out once or twice, and the director said, I'll sit here, I'll show you, it's perfectly safe. And they dropped it, and it went... And then the second half, they then let it drop all the way, crushing fence, lounger, tea table, everything.
For it to go crashing through onto his hydrangeas and his herbaceous borders, I mean, it was just hilarious.
When they started to actually antagonise us, and we felt deliberately, then that really got our danders up, didn't it?
As tensions rose,
850 quid? Have you gone stark raving mad?
the feud escalated,
What do you expect, Derek, from the nouveau riche?
You what?
with Des and Derek continuing their childish pranks, from clapped-out camper vans
You've got to get every single piece of this damn contraption back.
to cannabis plants.
It was given us by a neighbour.
Those scenes were so stupid. When you read them on the paper, you thought, oh, no. But they really, really worked.
I knew it. This tree is 3 inches shorter than it was yesterday.
I think that feud between us is just one of the best stories we had, actually, in the street.
But when Des left the street in 1997, it gave the pair a chance to reflect on their relationship.
I have to confess, now that you're going, that I've sometimes had a sneaking admiration for you.
For me?
Whereas you've always seen me as a bit of a joke, haven't you?
When Des left, it was certainly the end of it, and he and Derek did make up.
And here's me, getting on the boat alone. A string of broken relationships behind me. Not getting any younger. Who's the joke then, eh? You know, Derek, in a funny kind of way, I envy you.
It was quite a moving and sad farewell. It was like the two had come together, finally.
Look after yourself now, won't you?
I'll try.
I think it meant a lot to Derek, and I think it probably meant quite a lot to Des as well.
Coming up on the Corrie Years, Ken shows Mike who's boss.
I've had enough of your poison in my family, more than enough.
Look.
And Janice and Scylla wrestle over an unlikely heartthrob.
I just love the fact that they were fighting over Les for a start.
It's 1979, and the Jubilee line opens on the London Underground. Overground, Britain's dustbin men go on strike. And in Coronation Street, Gail Potter is set to meet her future mother-in-law from hell.
She must be Miss Wright.
She's misconvenient, that's all.
Ivy and Gail were both in love with the same man, and that was Brian, Ivy's son, Gail's husband, and that's where the feud comes from.
Do you work on motorbikes at the garage?
No, cars mostly. My mum says I'm cracked about engines. You want to come and see it sometime?
In January 1979, Gail started dating good-looking Brian Tilsley, son of Ivy and Bert.
Oh, you're there. I thought the lights had gone.
As soon as Brian, her son, fell in with Gail, Ivy took a dislike to it.
The difference between you and me, Ivy, is I happen to think Brian's old enough to make up his own mind.
And I happen to think he ought to be allowed to.
Ooh, I'll swing for her one day, I swear it.
She did love Brian, and she did want to be with him and marry him, and there was this woman stopping her.
And so Ivy tried to put Gail off marrying Brian.
Gail, can I ask you something?
Yeah?
Well, we were just wondering, Bert and me, what religion are you?
Ivy's religion was very important to her, and she was very bigoted in it.
We're Catholic, you know.
Yeah, I gathered that from Brian. But I don't think it matters what you are these days.
No way could her son, a good Catholic boy, marry a Protestant.
In the name of the Father.
But despite Ivy's protests, Gail and Brian did marry in a Catholic ceremony.
And of the Holy Spirit.
Though there was outrage from some viewers at Coronation Street's blessing of a mixed marriage.
We were doing things in the 70s that were brave, bringing problems to the fore, bringing subjects to the fore that had never been spoken about.
As far as you're concerned, I can't do right for doing wrong, can I?
For the next decade, Ivy would be the mother-in-law from hell.
Can't I do anything without you getting it into your head that I'm poking my nose in where it's not wanted?
A role which Lynn Perry played with relish.
You've no business working here.
It was lovely working with Lynn. She was such a vibrant character, full of fun.
My son is slaving out there and he's sending good money home. I know what he's sending.
She just used to love to get her teeth into things, and she just used to love to shout and scream, and she never held back.
Gail, I want to talk to you.
Having entrusted our brother Brian into the hands of God, we now commit his mortal body to the ground.
But despite Brian's violent death in 1989, the feud still lived on.
They had a new focus, someone else to fight over, and that was little Nicky.
Nicky and Sarah Louise were Brian's children, and so Ivy felt she had a perfect right to keep an eye on those children that were her grandchildren, which of course she did, but she did it in such a ham-handed and offensive way that she tried Gail's temper all the time.
You're not thinking of my kids, Ivy.
Oh, yes,
no,
I am.
You're not. You're using them. You're using them to keep control over me.
They knew exactly what to say to really hurt each other.
You still blame me for what happened to Brian.
May God forgive you, Gail.
I give you this ring.
When Gail married Martin Platt, Ivy was worried that little Nicky would forget his real father, especially when he later took the Platt name.
Your dad? Martin is not your real dad, Nicky. Your real dad's in heaven.
Yes, I know.
He doesn't want you to forget him, ever.
And even when Ivy died in 1995, the feud still wasn't over.
It's my granny's will. She's left everything she had to me.
All right, Nicky.
Ivy had the last word from beyond the grave.
Well, because there's a catch, isn't there? He has to change his name, or he gets nothing. Say hello to our son, Nicky Tilsley.
It's 2004, and pro-hunting groups take to the streets.
Thousands had come to save hunting. Many ended it fighting pitched battles with police.
The village of Boscastle surveys the damage left from the worst flood in 100 years.
As you can see, the devastation is enormous for this community.
And in Coronation Street, two women are going to war over heartthrob Les.
Scylla and Janice most definitely had a feud, and at the heart of it was Les, which seems ridiculous because Janice had given up on Les years ago.
Les had been separated from Janice for nearly 2 years when he started dating glamorous Scylla.
You're the best thing that's happened to me since Janice.
Since Janice?
Yeah, mate. Ex.
She instantly didn't like Janice because her insecurities made her believe that Janice would always want him back and always be trying to get him away from her.
But it was at the New Year's Day charity auction, where Les offered himself as a slave for the day, that the feud really began.
Anything you want me to do?
Scylla had this plan. She bid £5 because nobody else would want him, and she'd get him for the whole day. However, Janice saw through this, and she bid more.
£7.30.
I think Janice was absolutely determined that, although she didn't really want him for herself, she was damned if anybody else was going to have him.
Sold to Janice for £7.30p.
Yes.
What kind of woman are you, eh?
Despite Janice's best efforts, Scylla and Les dated for another 4 months until Scylla left him for an old flame.
When Scylla first went off with Uncle Ronnie, Janice was straight back in there.
Les was like a pair of slippers. She was used to him, and it was better than being on your own. She was a bit lonely.
So Janice got together with Les, but when Scylla returned to the street, she was hell-bent on winning him back.
I don't give up that easy, son. It's me your Uncle Les really loves.
What I used to love about Scylla was that she would never take the short route to getting what she wanted. You know, Scylla, to win back Les, would turn up in a soft-top car.
Right then, let's see what this little baby can do.
Just think about talking to him or anything.
Scylla's womanly ways had worked, but unfortunately for Les, Janice was hot on their trail.
Janice? I just loved the fact that they were fighting over Les for a start.
You lousy two-timing rat!
It's a farewell goodbye meeting. A parting of the ways.
I am physically trying to stop him from getting out of this car. I keep pushing him and pushing him and pushing him down.
I'm telling you now, I'm the one saying goodbye! Janice had this little handbag, and I filled it full of, like, really... really heavy, like, makeup. Not bricks. I mean, I was looking around for some little rocks to put in it. I am done with you! Well, I wanted to be real. You know?
We really went for those fights. You know, and hair was hurt and pulled and bags thrown.
Right. There were times when me and Wendy would sit apart in the green room, you know, after one of them scenes, because I can't just make friends with her after that.
What the hell are you doing?
She threw my handbag back at me in the stomach. And it actually really hurt.
Oh, you lady! Sling your hook!
But, you know, it was fun and it made it look real. You couldn't do that sort of, ooh, you hurt me. It had to really go for it.
1983, and drivers across the country are ordered to fasten their seatbelts. Britain is minted as the first pound coins are circulated.
It looks as though it's made of chocolate, but as nobody in England ever likes anything new, I've no doubt that's the reason.
And the definitive Coronation Street feud begins.
There was Ken, he was educated, university, intellectual, wanted to help society. And he saw Mike Baldwin as a little opportunist businessman who didn't care about people, just wanted to make a fast buck whenever he could.
You're in charge of that load of layabouts? I'm in charge of all the layabouts. I own the place.
Ken could cope with the clash of personalities, but then Mike made it personal.
Ken loves Deirdre, Deirdre quite likes Mike, but marries Ken and then has an affair with Mike.
Beginning, he just chatted her up to annoy Ken. But then once he got to know her, he got to like her. And that led to disaster.
That is the start of a feud.
It's Ken, he knows. I've told him everything.
Get out of
Ken,
this
please.
house. Shut up! I'm warning you. Get out of this house.
There you go. Go.
Of course, when strong things happen between strong characters, stories will ensue thereafter, as it has done.
The feud may have started with Mike's relationship with Deirdre, but it was Mike's next move which really twisted the knife.
When Mike had an affair with Ken's daughter, Susan, I found that a tough time, actually, on behalf of Ken. You just can't get deeper into somebody's emotions than having an affair with their wife, other than his daughter. So he did the two worst things any man could do to another man, really. I've had enough of your poison in my family, more than enough.
Look, a lot of people, especially Ken, thought he was doing it out of spite.
Every time I mention your name, he goes mad. He doesn't just dislike you, he hates you.
But actually, Mike fell in love.
Susan Barlow became Susan Baldwin on the 14th of May 1986, although their marriage would survive little more than a year.
I remember thinking, what a shame Ken hasn't got a sister as well that Mike could seduce. And it's a pity, really, his mother's no longer with us.
These early storylines laid the foundations for a feud which would last a lifetime.
If we ever put on a boxing match, him and me, we'd pack the place.
Slugging it out like a couple of old boxers that should have been retired years ago.
There were periods of relative calm, but you knew they were short-lived. Mike?
But it was in 2006, by which time Mike's mental health had deteriorated, that the feud came full circle.
What are you doing here? Look at the state of you. Factory's closed. Let's get you inside.
This was the guy I hated. He had had an affair with my wife, but here he was with a human being who was dying, and I felt sympathy. So it was a complex situation. You needed a bit of rehearsal, a bit of thinking.
Where's Deirdre?
She's at home.
Yeah, but who's home?
Well, the tragedy is that with the Alzheimer's, Mike thought he still had Deirdre.
There's something I've got to tell you about me and Deirdre.
I know.
She told you?
Mike, that was a long time ago.
No. He said it's me that Deirdre loves. And then he dies. Sad. You're finished, Barlow. Deirdre loves me. She's mine. Oh!
No.
Mike!
Mike! Well, it just showed how deep into the psyche of Ken and Mike the feud was between them. His memory was going, but the things that were still there and strong was the feud with Ken.
The Codebreakers have drawn up a list of suspects. Now they need to get the police on side before another woman's abducted, or take the matter into their own hands. The Bletchley Circle is next.